fearless and factual content.
I love it.
As we unveil a new bouquet of shows, amazing events, and incredible giveaways. Stay tuned over the next couple weeks as we turn things up. Scan your DVB-T2 compatible TV or multi-TV decoder to MX24, or stay up to date with us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. MX at 1.3. Let there be fun. Celebrating 13 months of fun, fearless and factual content.
Hello?
It's been a great first year, from the engaging shows that are now part of your daily routine.
This homecoming era has never been this fascinating.
Now it's time we took things up a notch. To the excitement on our social media timelines. Join us in celebrating 13 months of giving you fun, fearless and factual content.
I love it.
As we unveil a new bouquet of shows, amazing events, and incredible giveaways. Stay tuned over the next couple weeks as we turn things up.
Fascinating.
Now it's time we took things up a notch. To the excitement on our social media timelines. Join us in celebrating 13 months of giving you fun, fearless and factual content.
I love it.
As we unveil a new bouquet of shows, amazing events, and incredible giveaways. Stay tuned over the next couple weeks as we turn things up. Scan your DVB-T2 compatible TV or multi-TV decoder to MX24, or stay up to date with us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. MX at 1.3. Let there be fun. Celebrating 13 months of fun, fearless and factual content.
Hello and welcome to Spotlight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Nwong Falong and you are watching MX24 Television, your home for fun, fearless and factual content. We're streaming live on Facebook at MX24GH. Now, some concerned drivers and some drivers' unions have given government barely 48 hours to scrap certain taxes on the fuel prices to mitigate rising fuel prices and the burden on drivers. How will government react? We'll be finding out shortly here on Spotlight. Stay with us. We'll get to you after this break.
We talk about the issues that sharply divide opinion, regardless of the discomfort.
Abortion is a no-no. As a human being, you must take responsibility for all your actions and inactions. Your misjudgment shouldn't be enough grounds to take a life.
No. I disagree with you because look, if you do not legalize it, people will go to quack doctors anyway who might end up not just kill the baby, but the mother as well.
Why should I waste my time joining a long queue under the hot sun to vote for a political party, knowing very well that nothing would be achieved at the end of the day?
Something will be achieved. It's your civic responsibility to turn out to vote.
Governments need to cater to every graduate, diversify the economy, invest in other sectors.
But the government cannot do it all. That is why we need the youth to take up the mantle and set up their own businesses. That is how we will create economic viability.
We take your views, that of the experts, and even attempts to find common ground. Join me, Marie-France Fojo, every Tuesday and Thursday at 5 p.m.
Welcome back to Spotlight. I mentioned before we went on that break, we're discussing fuel prices. And if you're a regular fuel consumer, you will know that in the last few months, prices of fuel have kept on rising. Everyone is a consumer of fuel, matter of fact. If you do not directly purchase fuel at the pump for your car, you definitely get into transports, public transports, and you will understand the situation. Now, drivers are clamoring because they feel disadvantaged due to the increase in fuel prices, and they have not been able to increase transport fares. So they are putting a warning out there and giving an ultimatum, 48 hours, which ends 3 o'clock on Thursday. What do they intend to do exactly? We're going to be speaking to one of them later in the program. We're also joined by Fritz Moses from the Institute of, from IES. We also have Mohammed Abdul Kudus. He's head of communications at the National Petroleum Authority. It's good to have him join us. We also have Duncan Amwa, who's the executive director at the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC. He'll be joining us also shortly over there. Hello, gentlemen, and welcome to Spotlight.
Evening.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Good evening. Thank you for joining. Now, let me just quickly go to IES, who we have been speaking with extensively for months about rising fuel prices. In fact, they have kept on warning us that the prices will only go further. So let me go to Fritz Moses, who has joined us from the IES. Is this the height of it, or are we still expecting more?
All right. I hope I could, I pray I could say this was the height of it, because we see the international factors that are causing the increments in prices. And projections do not see a further drawdown of the prices. What we saw was that at the end of last week, prices averaged around $84 per barrel, ending around $82 per barrel. But as at today, beginning the day, it was around 85, meaning there had been a jump or an increment in the prices. So, the imports of China had reduced. We are still seeing prices rise up because OPEC Plus, led by Saudi Arabia, are refusing to increase supply on the market, and demand is definitely rising up. We are entering winter season where they expect that prices on the international market would increase because demand will definitely increase for oil products. And so for us at our IES, at our end, what we are seeing is that we may still see prices rise on the international market, thereby affecting the local.
You mentioned earlier, I think somewhere in August, right here on Spotlight, that prices might hit 7 cedis per litre by December. And now we know, it's inching towards that. Is it going to actually hit 7, or will it just stop short of 6 cedis and some pesos?
Yes, for you are looking at basically the international market and how factors are rising there, and how you would expect it to also rise in the local market. Whether it will reach 7 cedis or not, I think to a larger extent, we are seeing prices continue to rise. Now, projections from Bank of America analysts are reach around $90 per barrel by the end of the year, by the end of even November this month. And should that happen, then of course you see that reflect also on the local market. We think that yes, prices may rise on the international market, but at the end of the day, the decision to increase price on the local market will fall in the hands of the BDCs and OMCs. We would expect that going forward, we may have that decision, go into the favor of the BDCs and the OMCs, and so we may necessarily see an increment on the local market, but the severity of that increment will depend on how much the BDCs and OMCs are willing to give out.
Will there be any stability beyond December or before December of these prices? We know it's largely external forces, but will those forces stabilize and affect the price to plateau?
Well, for the international markets, stability expectation, many analysts are seeing stability rising or being achieved perhaps after the first quarter of next year. Discussions around that, there's some disagreements around that, but we feel that there may be some stability at the point in time. The bullish outlook analysts are saying that this may be the beginning of a higher rise in prices, and so you should be expecting prices even reaching around $120 per barrel and that itself also would not spell would not be good news enough for us Ghanaians, because that means you would see a rise on the local markets too. But then I believe that going forward, perhaps by next weekend, then you will know what measures the government to put in place to ensure stability in prices, if not for the rest of the year, perhaps still next year.
Okay, the line is a little jerky there, but we have a video in which the drivers are making certain demands. Let's just hear directly from them and return to the conversation.
The taxes, levies, and margins on the price buildup. We make this appeal because the commercial transport operator and vehicle user in general cannot continue to pay for debt caused by government appointees in the energy sector again. We can't continue sustain and then subsidize on premise fuel for the fisheries subsector of the economy, since the continuous subsidization of premise fuel has not stopped the importation of fish products into the country. Lastly, crude oil prices are surging on the international market, implying that government is making excess revenue on petroleum receipts, and for that matter, the petroleum and commercial transport operating needed to be cushioned. Briefly, we call on government to scrap totally the price stabilization and recovery levy of the 16 pesewa per liter per gallon per petrol, and then the 14 pesewa per liter per diesel. The special petroleum tax, which is 46 per liter on either diesel or petrol. The energy sector levy recovery levy of 20 cedi per liter on either petrol or diesel, and the sanitation and pollution levy, which is 10 pesos per liter on either diesel or petrol. And lastly, the scrap of the energy debt recovery levy of 28 pesos on either diesel or petrol, since the arrears of the legacy debt owed to the bulk distribution companies have been cleared. Now on the action column, we have this to tell the press. Our call for the government to scrap up and reduce taxes on the petroleum price buildup has been received, but without response. However, we further press on government to remove and scrap all the taxes or the margins on fuel price buildup as a matter of urgency.
Now, you heard from some concerned drivers over there. We have on the line David Agboabo, who is the PRO of Concerned Drivers Union. Hello, sir. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on Spotlight.
Good evening, and thank you too.
From your perspective, how are you receiving these fuel price increments?
Okay, thank you very much. This fuel price increment is affecting our business, and it's making us run at loss. That's why yesterday we came out with the press that we didn't hear anything from the state or the government. From yesterday up to tomorrow, 2 o'clock, we will park our vehicle and we won't work, so we hear something. But as I speak with you now, this morning we were at the coalition meeting where we had 3 strong ministries visiting us, namely Minister of Energy, Minister of Communication, or Koyo Ponkrumah, and then our sector minister, that's Minister of Transport. They all come and talk with us that yes, things are hard. They understand our plight. What we are saying, yes, they have heard it and they will do something about it. But my sister, as I'm talking to you, we still stand by what we are saying. We will not let our members down.
David, when you say you park your cars, wouldn't that affect you, your livelihood?
You know something? When the pandemic came, we all parked the cars and we were at home and it didn't affect us. This is also another pandemic in our business. Fuel price, the last time we increased price was in May. The price of transport have been increased by 13%. And then the fuel was 27 cedis per gallon. As I'm talking to you, 32 cedis per gallon. That means at every day on gallon, we are losing 5 cedis on gallon. So when you buy 10 gallons, see the amount of money that you are losing on daily basis, not weekly basis, on daily basis. So we are saying we are still at where we are. If we didn't hear any reduction, because we have named some taxes that are on the fuel, that it should be scraped off entirely, not suspended, scraped off entirely. If it doesn't come that way, we'll still stand by our word.
Isn't 2 days too short for that to happen?
My earlier submission, I told you we start communicating since 6th October.
Right.
So now we have 1 month. If the day is short or 1 month and over is short, I don't think we are fair to ourselves. It's not short. We have given the government ample time. It's the government that doesn't respond to our cries.
You've been dialoguing with government in the background. Up to this point, has that yielded any positive result, especially the latest being today? Do you think government is starting to hear you?
I will say today, yes, we have seen some level of cooperating, and they want to cooperate with us. We are waiting till the 2 o'clock ultimate that they themselves have given to us. If tomorrow 2 o'clock we didn't hear anything, we'll still back on the strike.
When you say by 2 o'clock, if you don't hear anything, by hearing something, if government comes back to you with an explanation and a roadmap without removing what you have asked to be taken off the extra taxes, would that count as something to stop you from proceeding with your action?
My sister, that's why I say we are waiting till that 2 o'clock. The reason why I'm saying that, they say we should put our things in writing. They just heard it in the air. We should put it in writing and submit to them. We did that in front of them. We gave it to them. Okay. And they also have said they have received it. And they are giving us up to tomorrow, 2 o'clock. We want the response because it is on paper. We also want it on paper tomorrow. That yes, this and this and this and that we say. Let me put it right. We say they should remove energy sector debt and energy debt recovery levy, energy sector levy, special petroleum tax, box margin, fuel marking margin, and finally, but not the least, the ninth and then the last increment or the last tax they have put on it. That's sanitation and pollution levy. When it is scraped off, yes, we will take it because they have assured us that before the budget, it will be captured. So we are still hoping that yes, they still go by their word. But if they didn't go by their word, that one, the account will say, and you will be in a community. If you bought your phone,
David, in the press conference, some of your colleagues mentioned that they feel like they have been taken for granted by government. Can you explain this? In what way has government taken drivers for granted?
Thank you very much. Yes, they have taken it for granted. You see, when we issued a press statement on 11th of October, government came out rebutting our press through Minister of Transport. That was on the 14th or so. Yeah, 14th of October. Telling the whole Ghanaian drivers that we didn't inform them. So we won't increase, they will not allow them to increase our lorry fares. But then we didn't say we'll increase our lorry fares. We said we will advise ourselves. There is many ways to kill a cat. So yes, they are not taking us serious in their doing.
Talking about lorry fare, David, isn't this another option that the drivers can explore instead of asking for the removal of all these taxes, which some of which government requires for revenue? Why don't you just give an ultimatum for an increase in fares?
My sister, you see, we have been trying one thing for quite a long time. It's not working.
Okay.
You see, the taxes, yes, government needs taxes to develop the nation with it. But some taxes are nuisance. Things like fuel marking. The fuel marking tax is there to give a color to the petrol or to the diesel to be different from Togo. But now the refinery is not working and we are buying end product or finished product. So, yes, that tax is not needed and it's not important. Likewise, special petroleum tax. What is special about our petrol that we are using? The ship that brings the petrol from where they bring it is the same ship that takes it in Nigeria. So what special is in it that we are paying special petroleum tax on it? My sister, some taxes are very, very new. Must describe and must describe totally.
Thank you so much, David Agboabo. That's the Public Relations Officer of the Concerned Drivers Union. We're going to be following the agitations and their negotiations with government and bringing you updates right here on MX24 television, especially on the news. So remember to tune into that. Luckily for us, we have the NPA on the line. We have a head of communications of the NPA, Mohammed Abdul Kudus. Hello, Mohammed. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You've heard from the drivers. You've also heard the press conferences that were held earlier. We also know that government has been engaging with the drivers for quite some time. We know that as the NPA, you do not determine prices, but you clearly regulate what has already been set. But how do you feel about these incessant increases in prices? The drivers say they are being taken for granted. Would you agree with them?
Let me say good evening to you. Good evening to all those who will be listening, and good evening to fellow and colleague panelists. Like myself, I'm a consumer of the product. So when it goes up, it certainly affects my pocket as well. So if anybody would be taking somebody for granted, obviously it will not be me, it will not be NPA. And like you rightly put it, our responsibility is cut out. We do regulate what has been determined. We don't set prices. We don't determine what taxes should actually be slapped. And so our responsibility in this particular instance, particularly speaking to the call by the transport union, is not that much of a responsibility on our head. Like I said, we do the regulation, we do the overseeing, we do the monitoring, and then where we need to also advise government through the ministry, we do that. And these are discussions that we always have in the background. But if I could speak very quickly on the fuel marking, particularly that the gentleman from the transport union spoke about, particularly so because your platform is also for education, so that those who are listening to us would have an appreciation of the discussion that we are having. The essence for the fuel marking was not just to distinguish the product of Ghana from that of the neighboring countries. It is also supposed to ensure the preservation of the quality of it from the point of the depot that it is taken to the point of the pump that it is discharged for you and I to go and buy. And so the marking plays a very significant role in the price builder. That is not to say that it should not be touched. It is something that collectively and together we can have a discussion around that, arrive at a consensus that would be win-win for all of us. But I thought that I needed to just bring the clarity to bear that part of the responsibility of the fuel marking on the price build-up is to guarantee the quality of fuel so it does not compromise the engines and related activities for the usage of fuel for those of us who would go buy it. So if he restricts it to the differentiation of the fuel of Ghana compared to that of neighboring countries, you probably will not be seeing the bigger picture. So I sought to bring this clarification so that we will have a better understanding.
I get that, Abdul. Does that mean you do not agree to it being scrapped as being requested by the drivers?
Oh, no, like I hinted, I'm saying that anything can actually be looked at, okay? We collectively and together can have a discussion on everything on the price build-up. You realize that a lot of these things were not part of the price build-up. They came on board at some point in time, depending on the exigencies of the time, okay? So if together we decide that for a certain reason, this should be reviewed by reduction, by suspension, or whatever, we probably can't look at it and collectively take the decision. But I sought to give a certain understanding of what it is used for, so that we have a better appreciation why it's a component on the price buildup.
Right. Abdul, you see, there have been other taxes that were mentioned. If you listen to the press conference, beyond the price buildup, there's the road fund levy, the energy sector levy. Do you think these are taxes that should be taken off?
Well, that is another thing that I cannot speak to, because they didn't come onto the price buildup by the doing or decision of the National Petroleum Authority. These are things that are passed on to us for implementation. And our responsibility and role is actually very much spelled out after we went full deregulation in 2015, where we are supposed to go clearly by the petroleum pricing formula, which actually anticipates the ex-refinery price, the ex-pump price, and the ingredient that goes into it. So as and when the determination is made and is thrown to us, we basically reorient and fine-tune the pricing formula to take into effect whatever that has been determined. And for the levies that have been mentioned and the tax particularly, these are the instructions of Parliament. And as and when Parliament makes a decision, an MPA is called upon, we would probably do what is expected and review the formula accordingly.
So you're saying the MPA does not have an opinion here unless dictated to by government?
The referee should not be seen having opinion on matters of this nature, because when you look at the object that actually sets us up, we are supposed to fully deregulate so that investors get a return of their investment. We are supposed to ensure that the revenue that is expected out of it is gotten. We are supposed to ensure that customers are not shortchanged. We are supposed to ensure that the prices of it is sold uniformly across the country, regardless of wherever you are. And then thirdly, we are supposed to ensure that there is quality right from the depot to the pump. These are activities that the NPA is enjoined to really carry out at all times. To want to opinionate or try to give an opinion on any of this responsibility bestowed on the NPA would probably be construed or misconstrued as taking a side on the part of the responsibilities of NPA. And so be careful. We do not want to openly proffer or suggest a certain opinion. If it is in the quiet, regular discussion that we have with our sector ministry, we probably will be able to speak our mind. But for this particular platform, I would indulge you and beg of you not to push me to make any opinion public.
Thank you so much, Abdul Kudus. We are grateful for your time. Abdul Kudus is Head of Communication at the National Petroleum Authority. Please do not leave. We'll come back to you shortly there. But we have some responses from the public on this particular subject. Let's just take that. And again, we'll come back to continue the discussion. We still have IES on the line.
I may say now, the work I'm doing, the fuel consumption and the fuel, everything has been increased. Because that was yesterday, I bought 150 cedi. He gave me 3 bar. First, 150 cedi can give me 4 or 5 bar. But as now that I'm talking to you, right now, I did not work a lot. But now the bar has reduced. You see? So right now, the system is not much moving was like first. Now the system is coming down. And we don't know what is happening. So if they can do something for it, for we the drivers, we can move forward.
Yes, right now everything is high. Now fuel, we the drivers, we can't even go out to buy fuel. Because when the previous government was in power, they promised that when they come to power, definitely they will reduce the fuel for us. Now the current government also came with the same promise. Now look at what's happening right now. The fuel is high. We can't even buy fuel. And then we have family to take off too. You get me? Right now we can't even buy fuel.
One of the things buying way here, wicked, where we the drivers, taxi drivers, or whom to say. So 2-4 Numa, he doesn't want to increase it for we the taxi drivers. The fuel has been increased every 3 weeks, every 3 weeks. I haven't seen any government increase fuel like that. At this government, you see, our business is not moving at all. So have you seen the car? I'm not cleaning the car before you come. I'm using only one car. The 3 cars were packed completely because of fuel increasement. Now the gallon of fuel is now 30 something Ghana cedis now. That's 1 gallon of fuel. So at the end of the day, the money we get is about 60 Ghana, 70 Ghana. Because even the passenger cannot even bother the car because of the increasement of the distance. So the distance is not far. So they walk to the market and come back. When they are coming, they take car, they walk. So it's not easy for us to get even passengers to go to the market. And the over 3 stations are so when you're lucky, the whole day, you can't even make 100 Ghana cedis as a driver. Since Rollins time up to Mahama time to this man is very west cry.
See, sometimes meet me a filling station. As I'm a first now me 200 cedis. Meet me the 3 days because of 1 or 2 things. But right now they say me tofu 2 days cry manasa.
And those were some drivers giving us their opinion about the fuel price increases. Let me just come back to Fritz Moses from IES. Abdul Kudus, please hold on there for me. Fritz, we've heard from the drivers, we've heard from the unions. The clearest thing here is that the prices are increasing and it's affecting everyone. They've called for some scrapping of some taxes on the fuel prices. Do you agree with the scrapping of these taxes?
All right, Don, we think that there are temporal measures that in the immediate can be implemented by government if there is that political will to cushion Ghanaians for the immediate future. But then again, with what we are seeing on the international market and the factors that are causing the increment, we think that it's now important and relevant for us as a nation to begin the conversation around the sustainable measures in ensuring that there is a control on fuel prices locally. Because at the end of the day, even if government should go ahead to remove all these taxes that we are seeing, the transport operators are expecting governments to remove or suspend. In the event where they are brought back, or when even we go ahead some few months to come, you may see prices still inch up and even go past or go beyond what you are seeing now, because the very sustainable measures that must be implemented are not being done. Because we are always making knee-jerk reactions. We see governments coming out to announce that price stabilization recovery levy of 16% has been removed. We think these are not sustainable measures enough, because at the end of the day, you go ahead after 3 months, after 6 months, you see prices are back at where they were earlier. Because at the end of the day, the things that are causing the price to increase are not the taxes currently, but rather the international market prices.
So are you saying that the removal of these taxes will not be stable? It will not affect the prices to be stable, because after a while, we're going to experience an increase from a different factor anyway.
Yeah, that's what we are seeing, because I mean, at the end of the day, if government should go ahead to remove these taxes, it would cushion us, yes, for the immediate future, maybe for a month, 2, 3. But with what we are seeing on the international market and demand expected to rise, we are not seeing new discoveries in the oil sector, or in the upstream sector in Saudi Arabia, in OPEC Plus nations, in USA. The world is right now moving away from fossils, and so we are not seeing that investment to inch up or increase supply. And OPEC is not interested in beefing up or increasing their supply. The current ultimatum is what they are still relying on. And of course, demand is also increasing. And year on, we are seeing demand for petroleum products continue to increase, demand for oil increasing. And if that is going to happen, and that is expected to happen, you're going to see prices also increase on the international market. That will definitely affect Ghana.
Wouldn't the removal of some of these taxes cushion the consumer slightly?
Certainly, it would. I mean, that's what we are saying, that it would in the immediate future. But going ahead, we don't think that government should be looking at just pleasing Ghanaians for a month or 2. We think there should be a conversation around a sustainable implementation of policies that would see that we are controlling our prices as a nation, and we are putting in place measures so that, barring all international circumstances and factors, we may be able to, in a way or 2, handle or control how our prices on the local market could be. Because should government, of course, it is necessary for government to help Ghanaians now. I mean, we said it earlier in the year that the introduction of those new taxes and increments of same or of others were unnecessary and insensitive. We still stand by those, and we think the government should be looking at all of that. We are expecting that in the budget come next week. But then again, we think that there should be a broader conversation around what government will be doing to sustain the price increment that we continually see. Because this wasn't the case 2 years ago, this wasn't the case 3 years ago. But had there been that sustainable measures put in place, we may not have been experiencing the increment that we are seeing. Several nations all around the world are seeing price increments. In USA, we are seeing calls. In Nigeria, in India, we are seeing all of these things happening all around. But then again, you realize in countries like China and USA, there are internal mechanisms that the nation can fall on. Now the US is looking at, drawing from their special strategic petroleum reserve to beef up the local market. China is focusing now on imports. It's focusing now on using what they are producing. They are no more relying on the export because prices are higher there. So these are some of the things that we think that we should be, government should be looking at. Internally, what can we do to ensure that we can push in ourselves as a nation?
Thank you, Fritz. We've just been joined by Duncan Amwa, who's Executive Director of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Let me quickly go to him there. I'll come back to you in a moment. Hello, Duncan. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
You have been a major player in the petroleum sector for a while. Did you ever anticipate that we would be buying fuel for 6 cedis 90 pesos per litre before the end of the year?
As far as June, if I recall rightly, June 4th, a publication we put out suggested by the middle or end of November we'll be crossing 7 Ghana. So yes, what we are witnessing at the pump currently is something that we saw happen from far off. We've been in various discussion and different fora. We've submitted different propositions, different input papers, even for the 2022 budget to be read on Monday, on the 15th of this month. We submitted all kinds of input. Sadly, nothing has been done so far, and so it is devastating that Ghanaians are having to cost so much to pay for fuel at this point, but it is not surprising because these were the signs were on the wall as far back as somewhere June.
Are you saying then that we are definitely going to hit 7 cities before the end of the year?
We've already crossed the 7 cities, but for the magnanimity of the various oil marketing companies, we should be reading about 7.11 today. And then again, we would have crossed the 7, but for the magnanimity of the removal of the price stabilization and recovery levy of 14 and 16 pesos. If you do add the 16 to where we are now, that is way over the 7 cedi mark. And so it is not likely that we are going back anytime soon. The writings on the wall are all pointing to a surge, especially in respect of the city's depreciation as we speak, and then international market prices also surging as we speak. It will be very difficult to expect that we probably will be dropping as far as the pump price figures are concerned.
Duncan, the driver unions are demanding the scrapping of certain taxes. Do you think any of them should be maintained or completely scrapped for all of them? Because they talk of the energy debt recovery levy, the road fund levy, energy sector levy, sanitation levy, and the special petroleum levy. From where you sit, should all of them be scrapped?
When you talk of these taxes, there's a two-way approach. Either you delimit them or you remove them completely. You can delimit by reducing those numbers. So where you have 48, you can decide, okay, I'm dropping it to about 30. You can also decide that I'm taking off the entire stretch of the 48. That is called scrapping. For some of the taxes, it will be difficult to scrap completely, while others should have been scrapped way long ago. But for the intransigence of our former and current finance ministers, you know, every finance minister comes and adds a line or two of taxes on petrol price build-up for reasons that may be seasonal specific, like what prevailed in 2014 when world market prices had dropped so low, and so as a crude exporting country, the then finance minister thought, okay, let me rather go and add some taxes so that the revenue that I could have generated from my crude exports, which I wouldn't get because prices are low, I could generate that same revenue from the pump. You get to a point where he leaves, and then another finance minister comes, also decides to add sanitation and pollution, decides to add another line of energy sector levy of 20 pesos and 10 pesos. So what was slapped earlier, the 46 pesos, is left hanging in there. At the time, crude had dropped to $28, and we were exporting and had projected somewhere $54. That tax has been left there, the special petroleum tax. The new finance minister comes, and just a year ago, he also adds a line or two and increased other taxes on the price buildup. So it has become a cyclical challenge where finance ministers come, and anytime they need a little more money, the easiest and the lowest of the hanging fruit is petroleum, so they go and slap taxes. At their exit, however, these taxes remain and become an albatross on the neck of Ghanaians. It is high time some of these taxes are completely removed, while others could also be minimized or eased down on. We say this advisedly. We do not say that remove them permanently, but you've gotten to a very difficult point where almost every single Ghanaian is complaining of some hardship one way or the other due largely to the rising cost of fuel at the pump. So we propose that for a quarter, which is 3 months, right, they limit some of the taxes and remove some for that quarter. We did an in-house analysis of total consumption per annum, and we took a base of 4 billion liters. If the government was to decide today, or the finance minister is to decide today, to remove as much as 90% every liter, which will bring fuel prices down by at least 3 Ghana cedis immediately, government would for the next quarter lose around 900 million Ghana cedis. However, government on the same stretch for 2021, due to increasing cost of crude prices on the international market, is making a windfall of 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. So if you do the apples and mangoes, right, if you do the plus and minuses, government revenue will still be better off by at least 3 billion due to what is happening on the international market. And so this is what I can conclude.
A line there, if you could just reposition yourself, perhaps.
Would see the need to do
Duncan, we're having problems with your line. Maybe you should reposition, or we can try to reconnect. Is it clearer now? Right. Let me just go to NPA there, and I'll come back to you shortly. Now, Abdul Kudus, are you still with us?
Yes, I am here.
Okay. We've been hearing a bit of information about illicit fuel trading, which the NPA is supposed to be taking some action on. Don't you think that this illicit trading helps to reduce revenue and thereby affect the revenue position that it comes from these fuel prices?
Yes, I agree with you, and we are actually doing a lot with border security to arrest the menace of the illicit fuel trading. But if I could make a quick point.
Please do.
First of all, I heard the representative of the transport union talk about fuel increasing every day at the pump. I'm not too sure where the information is coming from, because the people you interviewed, the consumers, also one of them talked about going up every three weeks and those things. We have a 2 weeks window that we do the revision of prices. And so that's when we do the regular review, and then the OMCs actually pick it up from there. We don't do the determination by ourselves. We pick the parameters from them. Then together we determine the price, and it is sold at the pump. And so that is what actually happens. But I keep hearing or listening to your position of fuel possibly going up to 7 cedis per liter, and I'm wondering if the conversation should actually be going in that particular manner, because many a times we speak as though it's a perfect market where the price is same everywhere you go.
Abdul, but these are projections by experts who have studied the market and the happenings around the price setting.
No, so what I'm saying is that it appears that they are taking the highest price in the market, okay, and they are speaking to that. It is a deregulated market where the OMCs are selling at different prices. In fact, I was driving from Aflao to Accra, and I saw some OMCs selling as low as 6.1. Some are selling 6.2. Some are selling 6.4.
When was this? 6.1. Where?
Pardon me?
When was this and where was that? 6.1 is quite.
I think my good friend, Mr. Moses with IS, would bear this with me.
Okay.
I don't have to mention names of OMCs on your platform. It would be like
no, too much.
Virtually
advertising.
PR or marketing. Absolutely. So, but that is what is happening in the market. It's just a few that are up there in the 6.8, 6.9.
Are those few being indiscreet?
A lot of the. Pardon me?
Are those few being indiscreet?
No, I'm saying that we should take advantage of the deregulated market. Okay, and as much as possible, not be moved by just a particular brand or a particular OMC and pick that as the reflection of the prices across. You see, Mr. Moses made a point, and I think we ought to be paying a very critical attention to it. Right. That because of the way demand is increasing, okay, the winter is a problem. The factories around the COVID-ravaged economies are beginning to come back to full force because of the easing of the effects of COVID. What it means is that demand is going to continue to go up. We are not too sure when supply would increase to commensurate the rising demand. I read somewhere where the President of the United States of America is calling on OPEC to, as urgent as possible, to increase the production of oil, because the people of the United States of America are suffering the brunt. So this particular issue is global. And so if we look at what we can do to cushion us immediately, I think that the long run, we should be asking ourselves, would that be sustainable? Would that still be there to help us? Frankly, if you ask me, I do not envy the finance minister at this time at all. Because the finance minister would be minded by what he should be able to generate into the kitty to do what the various sectors and agencies would be calling upon him to give them to be able to bring development to the people. But like I said, we at MPA, once there's a consensus around the discussion and a determination is made, let's say if we're told to scrap a certain levy or margin, like we did with the price stabilization and recovery, we would implement that. But like I said, we ought to really still be soberly asking ourselves the question, is it a temporary relief or a permanent relief that we are looking at? So that at least we are guided in what we call for and what we requested. And a quick one, Mr. Dankanamwa made mention of the necessity to keep some of the margins. And I thought he virtually backed what I tried to bring to bear on the importance of the fuel marking particularly, because some of these things, we could take them off but it would come back to hurt us. And so when we are making the demand, we should be careful what we are looking at and where we probably can attach without necessarily hurting our own selves.
Okay, Kudus, I see you are making some agreements there with Duncan. Let me just bring Duncan back in. His line is more stable now. Duncan, do you agree with Abdul Kudus on the deregulation specifically?
I'm afraid I couldn't pick much of what he said. I'm sure these are due to the fact that the line is not too good. Forgive me.
Duncan, the budget is going to be read next week. You mentioned that you have made some inputs into it. What's your foremost expectation?
We need fuel prices to be managed in Ghana. It cannot be a free fall. It cannot be a certain market that has no management whatsoever as far as pricing, as far as quality parameters, as far as who is even selling what for what price is concerned. If I did hear an indication that some section of the market is even trading for 6.1, I don't know if I got that correctly. Permit me if I'm probably wrong or I didn't hear that correctly, but I did hear an allusion to the fact that some of the pumps are trading for 6 cedi 10 pesos currently. I don't know if I got that correctly.
Yes, you got it correctly. 6 cedis 10, 6 cedis 3, 6 cedis 4. Abdul Kudus mentioned that. Not the major OMCs, he said.
I am afraid, but those numbers are not sustainable. And I dare say that if you check BDC price currently, hovering between 4.2 and 4.3, and then you add taxes of 2.6 Ghana cedis, it becomes quite illusional. It becomes very, very difficult to see how anybody that is doing a legitimate legal business at this point will be able to trade fuel for 6 cedi 10 pesos. But well, I would not discount that claim because even in the Bible, some people thought miracles were more of magic and all. So that is a magical situation, but the reality is that fuel prices could have been way above the 7 Ghana cedis. It is currently for the top 3 trading at 6 cedi 90 pesos. And mind you, between Shell, Gold, and Total, you are dealing with almost 60%, 55% of market share. What it means is that 1 in every 2 Ghanaians who buy fuel will be paying 6.9, and that is a good measure of an average. And so it cannot be said that because 1 or 2 have decided, however they got their product or however their trading mechanics is working for them currently, 6.1, so we should use them as benchmarks. It will be difficult to use them when the larger 3 are already at 6.9. Our market scan, those figures are not an overshoot of what the prices should have been. I do not also think that, having said all of this, there's nothing that the budget 2022 could do for Ghanaians. When we talk of managing fuel prices, we are looking at a situation where, because prices are not particularly static and they move up and down, we should have a dual pricing policy that allows the state, allows those within the policy space to work out what is feasible, what is possible, what is plausible, what is doable. What is feasible? Can we give out some of the taxes at this point and sustain or stimulate the market? What is possible? Can it be done? Yes, it can be done. What is plausible? Would the people be better off if we put in these mitigation measures? The answer again is yes. So what is the way forward? The way forward is to have the willpower to want want to manage fuel prices for Ghanaians. That's what we've been calling for. And that informed our very input into the 2022 budget.
Okay.
We were also calling for a certain easing on the taxes at this point. When world market prices have hit the roof, the expectation is that somewhere in February, it could begin to decline. By February, the pressure on the local currency could have also eased a bit because we will be done with our import season. You know, getting towards Christmas, there's a lot of importation being done for rice, even firecrackers, oil, and all of that. So the city comes under a lot of pressure. By the end of the year, somewhere mid-January, early February, prices could have eased down. The city could have stabilized a bit against the major trading currency. So if you give a tax holiday for 3 months, right, what it will do is that when prices begin to come down, and you could have probably be thinking of the fact that you are not going to get $80 for your crude exports anymore, you can begin to reintroduce some of the taxes, even at 10 pesos, 5 pesos, so that you do not misalign the economy. Where the rich are able to survive, they are able to do business, the poor can barely get by simply because a lot of the things that the goods and services price of everything is gone way beyond their pocket. This is all we are calling for within the 2022 budget, and we believe that it is feasible, it is plausible, it is possible, and it is something that if the finance ministry decides to do, it should probably be able to get the support of every Ghanaian to do this. But the question again, would they be willing to do this? Would they be thinking solely of what we call revenue? That is a humongous term.
Right.
And the earlier we find a solution to that thing, the better. If it is all about revenue for government, sometimes you lose touch with the base where the very people who support the government to carry out its developmental projects are simply inconvenienced and squeezed beyond their limits.
Duncan, if the budget is read and none of these concerns are addressed, what would be the next line of action for COPEC?
Unfortunately, we were hoping that our driver union will be able to step up the pressure.
Okay.
We supported every single move because we felt it's a good thing that they are not, for the first time, thinking of only increasing transport fares just to line their pockets or enrich themselves. They are also thinking of the inconveniences that these increases in fares would portend to the ordinary Ghanaian. But sadly, it looks as though that pressure that they could have exerted collaterally, there's some talks and backing down and all of that. We would explore whatever avenues that are left post-budget hearing on Monday and see what other pressures could be brought to bear on particularly the finance ministry to see reason in ensuring that Ghanaians do not get a very bad or dry Christmas.
Thank you so much.
Increases in fuel price.
Thank you so much, Duncan Amor. He's the Executive Director of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Let me go back to IES, who is still on the line with us. Fritz, before you go, give us in 2 minutes.
All right, thanks again. Well, I think many things has been said. What we are looking for is for government to show us the will that it's interested in listening to the concerns of Ghanaians, of course, and by, of course, introducing new innovative ways of ensuring that the taxes that we have in our price buildup are either reduced or removed entirely. I think that it would not, looking at what we have seen over the years, over the past few months, it will not so much inconvenience government revenue, if that's the point that government would want to make. But then again, it should also look at how consumers, that is we the citizens, will be able to benefit from the increased government revenue.
Thank you so much. Fritz Moses is from the IES. Let me just go back to Abdul Kudus, who's still on the line with us. He's Head of Communications at National Petroleum Authority. If you can also just give us, in 1 minute, your closing remarks, please.
Thank you very much. I agree that the issue of rising fuel prices is a worry and a concern to all of us, but I would endorse all of us to soberly reflect on the issue and not allow our emotions to drive us to the edge. At the end of it, we still have one Ghana, and we all would have to have a space to be able to operate and get our works going. So let's encourage a lot of the discussion. Let's not draw down our tools, but continue to work and continue to talk, and hopefully we'll get to a middle ground that would be a win-win for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abdul Kudus. He's Head of Communications at the National Petroleum Authority. To you at home, we apologize sincerely for not opening the phone lines. We intended to do that, but time has not been on our side. But please, as encouraged, continue the conversation online at MX24GH on all of social media. We are waiting to hear your opinions. My name is Nuong Falong. Thank you for staying with us on Spotlight. On behalf of the entire production team, we're very grateful. We hope that you stay with us for the rest of our programs this evening. The news comes up shortly. Do stay.